us to the next speaker, Mr. Manish Khandelwal, General Manager Marketing at GAIL India Limited. Mr. Manish Khandelwal is GM Marketing and is also leading GAIL Polymer Technology Center, which is the technical wing of petrochemical marketing of GAIL India Limited. The petrochemicals marketing portfolio of GAIL includes 8.10 lakh MTA HDPE LLDPE produced by GAIL at its petrochemicals complex in UP and 2.8 lakh MTA of HDPE LLDPE and polypropylene produced by BPCL Assam and marketed by GAIL. He joined GAIL, Mr. Manish joined GAIL India in 1993 as a management trainee and is one of the pioneer members of petrochemical marketing. Mr. Khandelwal has presented papers in various seminars, conferences, both at national and international level, and has traveled widely. He did his bachelor's in engineering with diploma in management. He further did his post-graduation in plastic engineering. And lastly, Mr. Khandelwal is associated with technical services, marketing, entrepreneurship, product market and skill development programs, etc. at the GAIL Polymer Technology Center. We welcome you, Mr. Manish Khandelwal. Over to you, sir.
Good morning. It is indeed a pleasure, privilege for me to be here to share our views with this gathering. Thanks to the organizer for giving an opportunity. I just would like to share my presentation. Transition, net zero. Now I would like to take it forward that the oil is basically a key factor now in our energy basket. And if suppose because of this electrical vehicles or ethanol blending and other things, we will be having some surplus oil. So what to do with this oil? So we'll take it forward how we can utilize this oil for the petrochemical production. So my talk will be talking about, I will be talking right today about the chemical market overview, the importance of this petrochemical business in the oil and gas demand, what are the global cracker capacity additions and feedstock, the light olefins demand supply, our then we will move to the polyolefins, polyethylene, polypropylene in particular, the various applications of these polyethylenes, and what are the key growth drivers, challenges, and how. So if we'll talk about the chemical industry, it is poised to reach almost $300 billion by 2025. India is the largest global chemical market, 6th in the world, 4th in Asia, and we accounts for almost 2.5% of the total world's global chemical sales. The 2020, the demand was 178 with CAGR of 9.2% as per the business usual business. We will reach to $276 billion. But our aggressive targets makes us to have a 11% CAGR, which will reach us to almost $300 billion by 2025. And out of this, if we'll see the petrochemicals, it will have a share of almost 19%. If we talk about the importance of petrochemicals and in oil and gas demand, the 14% is the petrochemicals share in the primary oil demand and 8% is in the gas demand. So the petrochemical plays a very important role in the overall oil and gas sector-wise demand. If we see the petrochemicals against the various oil demands, whether it is shipping, passenger vehicle, aviation, and road freight, Petrochemical is basically the highest growth sector, which is almost 3.2 against 2.5, 1.7 the other sectors. So petrochemicals are the fastest growing sector of the oil demand, over a third of the growth in by 2030 and nearly half to 2050. Now let us talk about the global ethylene supply demand. The 15 million tons is likely to be increased in 2020, the ethylene demand. The ethylene capacity additions during 2022 to 2026 is almost 41 million tons, against which, if you will see, 50% is coming in the Northeast Asia, primarily in China. So in this part of the world, a lot of additional incremental ethylene capacities are getting added up. Against the incremental ethylene capacity, if we will see, the 41 million tons, 94% is basically through the steam cracking, which makes it almost 39 million tons, and the polypropylene almost 24 million tons. Out of this, the steam cracking is 35%, and PDH-PP from 2015, which was 7%, now it is likely to increase to almost 2026 by 18%. And I would like to share that GAIL in India for the first time is putting up a PDH-PP plant at Usar in the western part of the world. If we'll talk about the global cracker capacity additions and feedstock during 2022 and 26, in North America, 4.9 million tons is added purely based on ethane. In USSR, it is almost 67% ethane and 16% naphtha. In Middle East, almost 5.4 MMT. Out of this, ethane is 53%, naphtha is 35%. And Northeast Asia, almost 18 million metric ton is getting added up, out of which 73% is naphtha, 16% is ethane. If we'll talk about the Indian light olefin supply demand outlook, now let us talk how we are comparable with China. We have 11 crackers against China, almost 56 crackers. So China is 5 times bigger than us. If we see the refining capacity also, against the 5.2 million barrels per day, they are almost 18 billion barrels per day. Now, if we'll talk about the ethylene and propylene demand supply gap likely to happen during 25, 30 and 40, around 3100 KTA will be the deficit in ethylene during 25, which will increase to 7,100 KTA by 2030 and almost 17,000 by 2040. Against the propylene, it is minus 700 by 25, 2030 it is almost 2600, and 2040 it is almost 10,100 KTA. If we talk about the total 20 important petrochemical products, but because as we are all aware that still we are hugely import dependent in petrochemicals. If we see the 20 important imported petrochemical products, will have PVC, almost half of our demand we are importing. Methanol, acetic acid, polycarbonate, 100% we are importing. EVA. So there are Metallosin LLDP, except GAIL has started, the rest of the others still it is import dependent. So huge quantities of the petrochemical products are still being imported in the country. If we see the demand of major petrochemicals, historical and forecasted, so PVC, polypropylene, polyethylenes, HDP, LLDP, Metallosin, LDP, MEG, PTA, these are all having a huge demand growth, and they are basically growing at a very fast pace. Just recently, the study has been carried out wherein it was, if we talk about the total 9 building blocks, with whether it is ethylene, propylene, then xylene, butadiene, intermediates, and then end products like PVC, HDP, LLDP, polyethylene, polypropylene, MEG. Out of the first 52 products which are getting imported in the country, we could find that out of the 83 total products, imports, we are almost doing a 15,000 plus KTA of import equivalent to almost 91,000 crore rupees, which makes us to, and government also is pushing, a lot of thrust is putting that how we can stop these imports and make the products available in the country through our indigenous production, not only for catering to the Indian market, but also to find out how we can export the additional products so that we becomes the export-based economy. If we talk about the Indian capacity additions, ethylene versus propylene, the incremental ethylene capacities which is getting added by 2022-2026 is almost 2.4 million tons. Through steam cracking, it is almost 82%. And incremental propylene capacity is almost 4.7 million tons, out of which the refinery FCC is almost 69%, steam cracking 20%, and as I said, PDH almost 11%. Now, if we'll talk about the estimated supply demand gap, so as we said that ethylene almost 3,000 KTA by 2030 it is almost 6,500, including the additional supplies which we will be expected to get it from the refinery expansion. So existing capacities, firm up capacities include, as well as the expansion, the supplies. Still we will be deficit in ethylene by 2025 to 3,000 KTA, 2030 it is almost 6,500, and 2040 it is almost 16,300. Whereas in propylene we will not have any deficit during 25 and 30, but in 2040 again we will have 7,000 KTA. So what does it say? It says that by 2025 we will need the additional 2 crackers of 1.5 million tons. By 2030 we will need additional 4 crackers of 1.65 million tons, over and about 2 crackers of 25, and then again in 2040 we will need 11 crackers of 1.5 million tons in addition to the earlier 6 crackers. So what it says is that by 2040 we will be needing almost 17 crackers. So almost 1 cracker a year of a 1.5 million ton. That is basically the demand opportunities for us in the country for addressing the deficit for ethylene and propylene. Here we have not considered Ratnagiri refinery. If it comes, then that quantity has to be added up and it has to be squared up accordingly. Now, if we'll talk about the various investments which is coming up in the petrochemical projects which are already approved projects and under implementation. So these are the capacities, almost 16 plants of almost 1 lakh crore capacities are getting added up in next 2 to 3 years, which corresponds to almost 10,000 KTA, which comprise of polypropylene, polyethylene, PTA, PVC, as well as MEG. Now, if we talk about the polyethylene and polypropylene existing capacities and what are being added up in next 2 years, existing in polyethylene, we have 5,500 KTA, and additional we will be having around 2,000 KTA in next 2 years, 3 years, which will make us almost 7,600 KTA. In polypropylene, we have 5,500, and additional we will be putting up 3,110 almost. So it is almost 8,600. Now, if we talk about the polyethylene and polypropylene, so total polymer demand in the world is almost 300 million tons, out of which polypropylene and polyethylene is 28 and 38% respectively, which are having a major chunk. Per capita consumption in India, it's almost 12 kg against the world's average of 38. US almost 93 kg. So we are far behind the world's average and very, very far behind US and the other developed countries. The potential is such that in case if we just increase by 1 kg of our per capita consumption, it will translate to almost having a 1.2 million tons additional polymer plant. Now, if we'll talk about the various Indian polymer market, it is 17.5 million tons, out of which 34% is polyethylene, 31% is polypropylene, and 20% is PVC. So polyolefins basically makes the major chunk. Since GAIL is major polyethylene manufacturer, I will talking about the polyethylene various constituents of polyethylene family, that is HDPE, that is 2780 KTA. These are the various sectors. In the subsequent slides, we will try to see the potential of each sector. In LLDP, it is almost 2540, which corresponds, out of which 70% corresponds to the LLDP film sector, that is packaging sector. LDP is almost 780 KTA. So this is the total polyethylene consumption in the country. If we talk about the polypropylene, it is 5420 KTA. So in polypropylene, we have homopolymer, we have copolymer, it is random copolymer as well as impact copolymer. So these are the various sector-wise consumption. So polyethylene capacities in India right now 5500 KTA, as we said. So Reliance, GAIL, BCPL, HPL, IOCL, and OPAL. These are the existing members. HMEL capacities are getting added up in next 3 to 6 months time, and then subsequently the HPCL Barmer refinery. From there also the polyethylene, polypropylene also is likely to come. If we'll talk about GAIL, we have almost 8 lakh tons we are producing at Pata. It is in near Kanpur, and we have 3 lakh tons at BCPL, that is in the northeast, Lapetkata. That put together almost 1.1 million tons. Additionally, we are putting up a polypropylene plant of 60 KTA at Pata, and additional 5 lakh tons at Usar, as I said earlier. And we have almost all the major technologies available, so GAIL can offer the entire basket of the grades and polymers for various applications. Polypropylene plant additional capacity is coming up, as I said, and since we have the ethylene available at Pata, we will try to maximize the random copolymer and impact copolymer grades production at Pata. And Usar mein we will be producing PDHPP 500 KTA. If we talk about the various key growth sectors in the polyethylene industry, it is packaging, consumer durables, infrastructure, and agriculture. If we see out of the various different applications, agriculture is the sector where still there is a substantially lower consumption in India compared to the various other sectors like packaging or infrastructure and auto compared to the global average. So the applications such as the drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, mulch fields, greenhouses, these are the sectors where really GAIL, the India needs to work on for getting the additional, because there is a tremendous opportunities available in this sector. If we talk about the polymers in packaging, so major 31%, 33% goes polyethylene and 29% in packaging sector. During pandemic, we saw that this packaging sector has really tremendously had shown the growth. Now this packaging talks about the 13% rigid packaging, flexible packaging is 35%. So the packaging industry accounts for almost 48% of the total polymer consumption in the country, and it is growing at 15% of the growth. Because of the pandemic, as you are aware, that people are becoming less conscious, small packets, the quantity and quality is assured. So the packaging sector has really shown an exponential growth. Now, if we'll talk about the various applications, so in domestic LLDP film market, if we'll talk about it's almost 200 KTA, out of which 14% is the high performance films like C6, C8 and metallocene grades. The applications are milk packaging, atta packaging, wafers, laminated films, stretch wrap, liners. In HDP, HM film market, it is almost HM film is 78% and 22% is HD film. This sector is almost 435 KTA, comprising of the shopping bags, carry bags, lamination film, oil packaging. The India's first metallocene based LLDP film grade has been produced by GAIL. the product performance was excellent, and we are now continuously producing. It's basically suitable for the milk, edible oil, lamination, where the application needs the heat seal, hot tack, better dart impact, the sealing properties. There basically we can use the metallocene grades compared to the normal C4LL or C6LL. The penetration of the metallocene LLDP in the to displace the more Ziegler matter, that is C4LL, in the developed country it is almost 30-35%, whereas in China and India it is still 12% only. So there is a huge potential compared to 35% to 12%. So therefore more metallocene grades can penetrate into the C4LL market. The end-use applications of metallocene LLDPs, milk packaging, rice and atta, tarpaulin, oil packaging, stretch wrap, agriculture films. Now, if we talk about the HDP, raffia and monofilament market, the fertilizer, cement, as you are aware that they are the traditional markets for these raffia bags. But recently, the food grade packaging, which this sector was being catered by the jute, but because of the non-availability of the jute, and there is a Jute Packaging and Material Act which talks about that the entire food grain and sugar is required to be packed by in the jute only. But when the government has found that the requisite jute is not available, then there was a relaxation in this, and then this HDP and polypropylene has been allowed to be packed for food grain and sugar. And this sector is commercially and technically the product has been found to be very suitable, and the major chunk of this food grain and sugar in the near future is like to get shifted to this plastic woven sacks compared to the jute sacks. If we talk about the HDP blow molding market, again, this is also another sector which is, as I said, the packaging sector. It's a rigid packaging sector. So edible oil, lube oil, general purpose containers, large size container, even up to 220 liters containers, which are basically substituting the steel drums. The sector is 900 KTA, comprising of edible oil 20%, lubricants 15%, chemicals 21%. Capacity wise, if we'll see, 0 to 15 liter is 70%, that is a major chunk. Then 20 to 120 liter is 19%, and 200 to liters and above is almost 11%. Injection molding, it's basically a 12% market share. Growth rate expected to be around 6%. Material handling, and India is producing almost 52 million crates of different sizes. This HDP and low MFI and high MFI grades. The low MFI goes for the crates or luggages and the pallets, whereas in the households and dustbins, tape caps, these basically are the high MFI injection molding applications. The higher MFI LLDP, which also goes for injection molded caps and also for the various master batch applications. The pipe sector, as we are aware that the government is putting a lot of thrust on this Jal Jeevan mission, where the last mile also is required to be, the tap water supplies are required to be given the access to the last person. So because of which there is a tremendous polyethylene pipe, both HDP, P100, P80, these two sectors are basically a lot of thrust is being given, that therefore there is a huge potential. Further, the 5G also has been, government has recently announced that also. So the OFC duct, PLB duct also will be another sector where the growth is likely to go. If we'll talk about the micro irrigation, that Pradhan Mantri Sinchai Yojana, there also, against the covered area, the potential is huge. So untapped potential is there to cater. In plastics and rotomolding, although India is basically focusing only on the 85% water tank market, but there are other applications also. Like if you just talk about the panwalas, those panwalas will have the wooden structure along with the tin shed. If that can be replaced by a single piece rotomolded space, then this particular application will have a huge potential. All India's panwalas will get shifted to this application. Then there will be, we can imagine the potential of that sector. So stimulus for growth, Government of India initiatives are basically Make in India, Jal Jeevan Mission, Housing for All, Digital India, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sanchai Yojana, Smart Cities, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. If 10% of the toilets which are made by rotomolding plastics get shifted to this, then then we can imagine the potential of this. So government initiatives are basically further boosting up the expected polyethylene growth. As I said, rapid urbanization and rise in the middle class population, transformation of the market from unorganized to organized is giving a lot of boost on the Indian packaging industry. But there are challenges also. Pandemic first, second, third wave, and still now we are recently hearing the another. So this is also another challenge. Fluctuating in the raw material prices because of the last 6 months, 1 year, we saw a lot of volatility in the polymer petrochemical prices, over processing capacity, intense price competition, and of course the environmental, the sustainable issue. So there are a lot of single-use plastics are being banned at various stages, but plastic waste management, although we are for the growth, but at the same time, there should be another side of the coin which also is required to be addressed as a sustainability. So plastic waste management, classic circular economy, the newspaper we never throw. Why should then we throw our plastics used product? So we'll have to create a similar model for flexible packaging where the economic value is more, how we can incentivize our rack pickers. The single-use plastics, 120 micron, less than that also is likely to be banned from 31st December 2020. There are emerging technologies also, like the single-family materials instead of the multi-layer different laminates, which will make the recyclability easy, and then this recycled material can come back to the circular economy. So monolayer leads to the circular economy. The monopolymer, if waste is almost 60 to 80 rupees compared to the mixed plastic, multi-layer is 15 rupees per kg. So this enables the recycler to be good prices for monopolymer waste, makes it worthwhile for waste collection agencies to collect waste from the consumer, and makes recycling possible, cost effective and easy. Government has also initiated the extended producer responsibility notification has been issued. Government also has issued the Plastic Waste Management 2022 amendment rules, where they have a lot of emphasis has been given on the plastic waste management. So at last, in concluding, India's petrochemical demand has been growing robustly over the last 2 decades, and the growth momentum is expected to continue for the next 2 decades and more. The demand growth is expected to across all segments, whether it is commodity polymers, fiber intermediates, elastomers, and specialty petrochemicals. In 2020, the demand of 52 products was almost 27 million tons, which is expected to reach to almost 87 million metric ton by 2040. So this additional 60 million metric ton by 2040 will call for a huge capital investment of almost 18 lakh crores. Sustained capacity building for the next 2 decades calls for concentrated efforts by the policymakers and the industry. India's estimated polymer deficit will increase year on year in current decade. Projected consumption growth indicates a requirement of 1 cracker a year. As I said, 1.5 million ton cracker every year. India needs to focus on the integration of refineries to increase petchem production for becoming an export-based economy, because we have the naphtha at a different refineries. If we can pull the naphtha and can bring it together for making the petrochemicals, that will be the ideal solution. Significant investment in the infrastructure, whether it's ports, pipelines, transportation network, will also be needed to accelerate the capacity building by the industry. The industry also offers the significant opportunity for collaboration with major international petrochemical players for building capacities. Thank you very much. I would be happy to take any additional questions, any concern, anything which you want to get it clarified in the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Manish Khandelwal. It was very great and very insightful to listen to your talk. And you've given us an advantage in terms of when there is a lot of surplus of oil, what we have to do with it, rather than drowning in the oil. It's a very good idea, sir. And one important point you touched upon was that China is 5 times bigger than India, in terms of the crackers. So this is definitely an opportunity, and then we are very import dependent for petrochemical products. Now, I believe there is a lot of government focus, industries also talking about it. How do you reduce this import dependency plus improve our capacities, and a lot of investment is going in petrochemical capacity addition. That's what even I'm understanding. And there are a lot of projects that are in development approval stage, so it is a good news that we are moving in that direction, which is definitely evident from GAIL, how they are planning to enhance their capacity. So it's a very good news for all of us put together. And then you touched upon how we are behind China, but we are far behind US and other say developing nations. So it's a huge opportunity instead of a problem, that we are facing. That's a very good point. And you mentioned a lot of opportunities in the Indian agricultural sector. Definitely, this is an area that we need to consider, seeing that we are still dependent on agriculture in a major way. Then you shared information about LLDP segment applications. It's a good informative piece for us. We get to understand what's happening in the industry. And a lot of demand coming up in domestic PE pipe market. We are seeing a lot of traction in that segment. Then a lot of challenges in the single-use plastics. Definitely, as an industry, plastic circular economy, and a lot of talks are going on in addressing these concerns. So maybe as a provider of solutions and industry who's using this as a collaborative effort, this can be addressed in the long run. Fine, sir. Great, sir. Nice speaking to you, and please be with us in the session. So at the end, we can do a question answer.
Sure,
Fine,
sure.
sir.